Welcome. Happy Monday. Hope you're having a great day after Father's Day weekend. We've got Tessa Bella, a friend of mine. She's been in real estate since about mid 2015-ish, about officially, right? And you went to our event in Coronado. That's the last time I saw you speak in person.
Yeah.
And since then, you've blown up even more. And it's really cool to watch you on social media. You touch on so many different topics. You're engaging. People connect with you really well. So that's why I thought, we should bring her in more often. So that's one. But we should bring her in first again, just to talk about where we need to start when it comes to social media. And so today she's got something for you. It's called 30 Days Social Media Lead Gen Blitz. Tessa, welcome.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. It's crazy. That event in Coronado felt like ages ago. It kind of was like 2018 or 19 or something. It's crazy how long ago that was now. But I'm super excited to be here. I mean, I spend a ton of time in the Lab Coat Agents Facebook group and connecting with everyone. So it's fun to jump on here and also be able to share some stuff with you guys. So today I'm going to go over my 30-day social media blitz. So let me get my screen up here so you guys can see that. And if you have questions, I'm totally open to answering any questions. I know the thing with social media sometimes is that, everyone's at a different place. Everyone's heard different input. There's so much information that circulates out there. And so the goal of today is to make it really streamlined and really simple for you guys to understand. And I will also say this, I do believe that there's a lot of ways to do social media right. I don't think there's a one size fits all solution. I think there's a lot of different things that can work for all kinds of different people. When I talk about social media, I'm talking about it from not only my own, 10, 12 years of experience, but for a long time, I managed over 300 accounts. And that was of individual agents, brokerages, teams, real estate tech, and even some of the big real estate influencers that are on HGTV and Bravo. So when I'm sharing things about social media, I'm a big data person. I love for things to be backed by data and proven that they can work. So that's all of my strategy stuff. That's not to say that other people's stuff does not work. There's tons of things that work. And so I just want to set that quick little tone here that it's important to take what works for you and you can leave the rest behind. But we're going to get started here with, I just want to give you a little background of who I am. As Tristan said, I got started in real estate about 2015. I was in college at the time. I was working a bunch of jobs. I had just started getting into real estate, actually on the real estate investment side. So that was what first drew me in. Believe it or not, I just loved watching HGTV and I was like, gosh, that looks so cool. I'm sure I can do that. So I always joke that I enrolled in the University of Google, and I literally would just read forums and watch videos and figure out what needed to happen to flip a house. And in doing so, I started to talk to people because I was like, well, what I don't have is money. I certainly didn't have that as an 18-year-old in college. And so I started talking to people. I've always believed the phrase that everyone has something that makes them an instant extrovert. And so mine really quickly became real estate. I was so obsessed with talking about it. I loved talking about real estate. And so though I'm a very introverted person by nature, that made me just come out of my shell. And I would talk to anyone and everyone about real estate. And believe it or not, long story short, I got connected with like a friend of a friend of a friend who someone just said, oh, this guy's got some money. He's based in like North Dakota. He said he'll get on a Skype with you. And I was like, okay, I don't know exactly what got money means. He could have $1,000 or $1 billion. I have no idea. And so I got on this Skype call and he started, I went through this slideshow that I had put together of how I planned to flip a house. And I had prepared so much for that presentation that by the time I finished, I sat there and I feel like I could hear my eyes blinking. It was like blink, blink, because it was dead silent. And I was realizing in that moment that I had prepared so much through the presentation that I didn't think about what would happen afterwards, depending on the answer that I got. So he said yes, that he was willing to fund my first flip. And so that turned into 20 flips my first year. On the day that I had closed on that first property to flip, I had negative 36 cents in my personal bank account and my water later got shut off. It was quite a story. but I was able to use resources and leverage the knowledge that I had acquired to turn that into something else. And that whole time I was documenting this process on social media, really the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that's when I started to generate a ton of interest from social media. It was, other agents, it was people with properties, it was all kinds of people that were seeing this journey and were reaching out to me. And so that's when I decided to go ahead and get licensed. And in that first sales year, I generated $33 million worth of leads and closed business just from social media. So none of that was paid, no other lead sources. That was all through my social media. And at the time, I think I had, I don't know, maybe 4,000 followers or something like that, which I know still to some may sound like a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, a lot of those were people from, I grew up in Oregon, people from my high school, stuff like that. So it wasn't even that many people that were like directly related to what I was trying to do or in my local market. But I had this strategy of social media, and that was what I always deployed, and it worked obviously pretty well. And so because of that, I was able to partner with the NBA's Phoenix Suns. I had so many cool opportunities that all came because of social media. But I will say, when I was partnered with the Phoenix Suns, it's when they weren't good. And so I as part of my partnership,
Who
they gave
cares?
me all these free tickets to give away. And I remember there were times where I was like, I'm almost paying people to take these tickets to go to the games. It was so funny because now everyone wants to go watch them. So yeah, timing wasn't perfect on that, but you know what? It worked out, and it was a really awesome experience, just to say that that came through social media. So I share some of that because obviously we want to show up on social media for the presentation. We want to make sure that we're showing up to potential clients. We want to build an audience. We want to do all this stuff, but there's so many doors that social media can open for you. And I think that's why I find it to be so important, is it's not just about what you post. It's not just sharing a testimonial. It's honestly about creating these opportunities and these open doors. I guess no pun intended, but also pun intended, these open doors for you to build relationships, get new opportunities, and really just have this funnel of people coming in at all times. And so one of the biggest things that I think is important when it comes to social media is focusing not so much on consumption, but turning your consumption into creation. See, a lot of times we get on social media, and I'll admit I definitely fall victim to it at times, and I'm just scrolling, like mindlessly scrolling. Especially TikTok will really suck me in at times, and I can just watch and watch and watch. And as much as that's fine from time to time, it's really important to view social media, in my opinion, as a creation platform. And so even when you are consuming, try to switch that creation toggle on in your mind and think, okay, that's a really cool piece of content. Maybe it's in my niche, maybe it's not. How could I recreate that? Or how could that inspire an idea for myself and for what I'm trying to do? So the goal is really trying to train yourself to look for that inspiration in the content that you consume, rather than just like mindless consumption. When you do that, you'll realize that there is endless opportunity for creating content, connecting with people, and using your phone for a really powerful tool that can fuel up your business even more. As far as social media goes, I'm a big fan of Instagram. That's one of my favorite platforms. And I always believe that it's important to, it's good to show up on these other platforms, but I think it's important to double down on one that's going to be your main focus. It's kind of like with anything. If you try to put medium effort into a bunch of different things, you're probably going to get mediocre results back from that. And so that's why I think it's important to focus in on one main platform that you're going to kind of double down on. And then of course you can share that content like across those other ones. But for most of this, I talk about doubling down on Instagram because I do believe it's one of the most powerful platforms, not just for growth, but also for connecting with people. And so the algorithm on Instagram does change frequently, and they'll never officially tell us what it is. So it's always sort of this game we have to play, figuring out how to kind of adjust to the algorithm. And I will say they did just recently, in the last week or so, do a pretty big update, which it's not uncommon that when that happens, engagement can drop a little bit. Maybe things that were working previously aren't working quite as well, and maybe other things are working a lot better, but it does always level out. And what I find is following a plan and really sticking to it consistently it'll show Instagram that you're not going anywhere and you'll beat the algorithm over time. So I'm sure you've heard it in just about every social media training or blog or whatever you've read, is that consistency is the most important piece. And as much as that probably sounds like a broken record, it really could not be more true that showing up regularly is the most important piece. And that reigns true for every social media platform. That is one of the heaviest things that they look for as far as showing your content to other people is this someone who pops on, for 1 week, they're posting 3 times, and then the next week, we don't hear anything from them. And then they go to an event, they're all fired up, so then they post every day, and then they stop again. And it's just always sort of this up and down consistency game instead of showing up regularly, even if it's a less frequency. So I like to say, start from where you are with what you have. If you are not posting on social media at all right now, try to start getting in the habit of, say, 3 times a week. That's a manageable goal, rather than saying, okay, I'm going to show up every single day. Because a lot of times, if you're not doing it at all, and then you try to jump to daily, people will fall off, and you'll get in that kind of cycle where you fall off and then you try again, and then you fall off and then you try again. It's much better to get used to, like, I'm going to do it 3 times a week and then graduate from there once that becomes sort of habitual and it's something that you're doing regularly.
Yeah,
so
makes sense.
I'm going to talk a little bit about how you can show up more consistently, how you can prioritize yourself on Instagram, and then we'll get into the actual 30-day blitz of the strategy that you can use. So the first piece, like I said, is that consistency. I know it may sound obvious, but it really is probably the most important thing. And it's really challenging because when we're not seeing the results that we're hoping for, like maybe you've spent some time working on a post, maybe it was a video that you really thought was great, you post it and it just does not get the views or the engagement or the comments or anything that you were hoping for it to get. It is no secret that that can be discouraging. It can be frustrating, and it's really hard to keep showing up when it's like, well, I'm putting in this effort and it doesn't seem to be working. But you've got to push through and keep showing up and keep making small adjustments to your content that make it better and better and better. And if you select a time or multiple that you'll post consistently, so like I say daily in this, because I do think it's great to give yourself a boost of momentum by posting daily. But like I said just a moment ago, if that's not something that you're doing already, start with 3 days a week or 4 days a week or whatever you can manage that you will stay consistent with, and stick to posting at that same time for quite a while so that you can actually gauge the data. I find that posting at the same time every single day for at least 30 days gives me a really good insight into how that's performing for my audience. From there, if it's still not quite getting the result that I'm looking for, maybe I'll adjust it a bit and try a different time and test that for 2 weeks or 30 days and see what happens. Because really, everyone's perfect time to post is going to vary a little bit. Of course, there are times that tend to be better, but it matters to pay attention to your specific audience because everyone is going to be a little bit different. The second piece is understanding Instagram, which is sort of a never-ending journey in some ways, but you really want to work hard to not just understand what they want, but try to actually understand why they want it. Because at the end of the day, Instagram is a business, and they're always going to have a reason behind the things that they prioritize or that they suppress. And as much as we maybe won't understand every little intricacy of it, we can definitely try to pay attention to and think with our logical minds, why might they be doing that? So an obvious one is whenever they roll out a new feature, they tend to prioritize people using that new feature. So they introduced, Threads not too long ago, which is Instagram's version of Twitter. And they were really pushing out content from people who were creating threads. Supposedly they're still doing that. People who are using this newer feature because it's a business, because they want more people using it, they're really pushing that kind of visibility. So it is really helpful to try and kind of put your thinking cap on and think, maybe why do they want to push this? What is it that they're trying to push and why might they want that? Step 3 is really focused on using those features. And so as sometimes random and silly as they might seem, it is playing into the Instagram game. And it sort of gets you put on that nice list. It sort of gets you prioritized maybe ahead of some of the other accounts. So when I talk about features, this could be, again, like that example of using threads as a piece of content. but it can also mean when you're posting an Instagram story that you're participating with some of those stickers and some of the things that they've added in there for you to attach to your stories. So again, I know sometimes they're silly. I know sometimes it seems like pointless to add that feature, but it does tend to help you get a little bit more prioritized than some of the other accounts. Now, this fourth piece is one of my all-time favorites, and that is the explore page check. So whenever you go on your Instagram account, if you go to your little explore page where you can see all kinds of other content, if you look at that and the content that you see there, let's just say it's like a bunch of motorcycles and sports team highlights and maybe some food, that's probably going to indicate that those are the accounts and the type of content that you tend to engage with most. And so what that can tell you is that, oh, that's also maybe what Instagram is taking your content and showing it to them, because they're going to make this assumption that, well, oh, if he likes this content, then they might also like his content, right? But as you can guess, if they're showing my real estate content to a local restaurant, they might not see that as valuable, which could be resulting in that lower engagement. So I love to perform this check on myself by going to my explore page and seeing kind of what that looks like. And if I can see a lot of different, local events and local people and other real estate stuff, then I typically can tell that I'm, on the right track there. So it's not 100%, but it tends to be a really great indicator of how your content is currently being categorized. And it can also be a good gauge of how much you're changing that, because if you go right now and you do see that it's all motorcycles and sports and food, and then you start making an active goal to engage with more people that are local events, other real estate content, you'll start to be able to refresh that explore page and see that change happen almost real time, which is pretty cool. Then we get into boosting your story views. So this one is, I roll my own eyes at this one because I know it's a little ridiculous, but I will say this, Instagram stories have proven time and time again to be one of the best ways for me to capture new leads. And that being said, sometimes story views can be all over the place. I'll have days where there's tons of story views, and I'll have other days where I put something up and it's up there for a few hours and it seems like it's not really being seen by many people. I couldn't tell you fully why that's happening, but this is a strategy that I've used to boost my story views, and it has worked extremely well. So I figured, why not share that with you guys? If you want to play the game, here's how you do it. You're going to delete all your stories from the past 24 hours. So whenever you go to post like a new story, you're going to want to make sure that you cleared out all those old ones. And I also close out of the app and just kind of leave it for a little bit. I'll just let it sit for maybe 5 minutes after I've removed all of those previous stories from the last day. Then I'm going to jump back into Instagram. When I go to post a story, I'll use that add yours sticker feature. So you may have seen it. It's right in your stories and it's going to say add yours. There's like a bunch of different prompts. So it could be add your new listing. It could be add your, morning coffee. And it's all of these people that'll use this sticker to add in their own photo to kind of this like scrapbook almost. I know it seems kind of silly, but it works. So you can create your own, or you can use one of the existing ones. And I love to do this and then put a little blurb about myself, my business, how I help people, or maybe to highlight a lead magnet that I have. If I do it that way, I'm going to ask them to, respond to that story, comment a word, something like that. And then I won't post anything for a few hours. And every time I've done this, my story views are 3 to 5 times higher than they've ever been before. So again, I know this one's a little out there, but it's worth throwing out there if you want to test it. It tends to work really, really well for boosting those story views, which can, of course, lead to some additional opportunities. So that's kind of like a odd little hack, but it's a fun one. Now let's get into the actual 30-day blueprint. So I'm going to encourage you to pick a platform to focus on, which again, I would suggest is Instagram. That tends to be my personal favorite, but again, you can adjust if you want to. And then you're going to focus on a daily post, or like I said, if that's not something that's realistic for you, shoot for maybe the 3 per week. Just make sure that you can consistently do so. And if you don't already know a great time for your audience to post, I would suggest like an 8 or 9 a.m. or a 1 p.m. Those tend to statistically for all people be some of the higher times. But again, if it's different for your audience, be sure to pay attention to that and follow the time frame that you know you're going to be able to post and that you get a better boost from your audience. Then we want to make sure that we're setting aside some time to engage intentionally for at least, 15 or 20 minutes per day. And that word intentionally is very important here, because that doesn't mean I'm just going on there and kind of willy-nilly clicking around and scrolling and doing whatever. It means that I'm actually going on there, and I like to look through hashtags. I'll type things into the search bar to find local people. I will go to other people in my market and maybe look through some of the people that are commenting and liking and engaging on their content and go and network with them or engage on some of their content. I do so with intention of really trying to expose my content to more people, connect with new people, and like we talked about, kind of training Instagram to categorize me the way that I want to be categorized. If you start setting aside time to do this, like 10, 15, 20 minutes a day, you will notice a massive shift in how people respond to your content, because naturally they're going to start to see more of it if you're engaging with their stuff too. I personally love to create and share different lead magnets that really target my niche. I do think it's important, of course, a buyer's guide or a seller's guide, those are all great. But if you can get more specific and really niche with your lead magnets, it's not only going to help you probably attract in more people, but also it can make your lead capture from social media a lot more specific. Because let's just say I put out a lead magnet that is like a boost your credit checklist. Now I know that anyone that opted into that is probably in this phase. I can kind of use some context clues to tell what phase of the process they might be in, which could help me to improve my follow-up. Do you see how now I got a little more insight based off of what they opted into? If they just opt into a seller's guide or a buyer's guide, that tells me they might be interested in one of those two things, but it doesn't give me more insight on where in the process they might be. So that's one of the reasons I really love to get super specific with those lead magnets that we create and push out to our audience. And then focus on adding to your stories daily. So maybe just 1 or 3 stories a day, just periodically throughout the day. It can help with getting you, again, a little bit more priority on the platform and a little bit more visibility on the platform. So that's sort of our blueprint for what you can do for 30 days. This will really kickstart that momentum on social media. You'll start to notice a lot more people connecting with you, a lot more engagement happening. I would love to say that you'll probably generate at least some new conversations, real estate related from that. They may turn into full-blown leads, which is ultimately the goal, but at the very least, having more conversations. We know real estate's a numbers game, right? We want to have more conversations that lead to real estate conversations that can then turn into potential clients, referrals, vendor partnerships, all kinds of really powerful stuff happens from those conversations. And when done properly by following a blueprint like this, social media opens up the channel for that many more conversations. So I want to give you one more strategy here to really double down on your content. But before we do, I want to clarify that there are so many different types of content. There's honestly even more than what I'm talking about here, but I just want to point out some of the differences, because I know that, maybe showing up on a video of yourself isn't for everyone, and that's totally okay. I would encourage you to get out of your comfort zone a little bit and show up and show your face on social media. But if that's totally out of your comfort zone right now, that's okay, because there's so many other types of content. And honestly, a lot of them work really well and don't require you to, set up a camera or hire a videographer or any of that fancy stuff. You can do so really quickly and really easily, just, from wherever you're sitting right now. So a couple types of content for you. Faceless is one that's becoming more and more popular, and obviously is very easy to do. It's quite like what it sounds. It's literally content without your face. So it could be, a video of your computer and you're scrolling through MLS. It could be a video of you, pouring your morning coffee in the morning. And you can do these yourself, or you can even use like pre-made content that's this faceless stuff. Typically, you'll pair it with some text on the screen and maybe a trending audio. And this is a really easy way to crank out content consistently. The second one is probably one of the more common ones we see, which is that they're called talking head. It's literally just directly facing your camera. You're speaking on a specific point. Typically, these are the educational style videos, and those also tend to be very popular. The ones that we're seeing work best on Instagram especially are looping content. So this is a really short clip, typically 10 seconds or under, maybe 6 seconds. And you're going to use that trending audio and just put text on screen. And the reason that it's working so well is because that video is going to loop as many times as somebody's sitting there reading that caption. So what we do for looping videos is we'll do a short clip with like a nice hook on that screen that says something like, 3 tips you have to know if you want to save money on your next purchase. And we'll direct them down to the caption. And then in that caption, we're writing like a long form content that they're going to read that'll take them at least 2, 3, maybe 5 loops of that video in order to read the full caption. And so it can help to really increase the viewership because it's just looping over and over. Next, we've got our guru style, which you've probably seen tons of these. This is that typical sort of influencer style video where they're talking, they've got the poppy captions. It's probably a bit more high production. Then we've got vlogs, which can be really fun. It's just multiple short clips throughout your day. I like to do these as like a day in the life, and you can kind of document maybe what your behind the scenes looks like. We've got a voiceover, so you can use a combination of different clips and just voice over with some narration talking about what it is. We've got an interview style, which of course, if someone's actually interviewing you, that's great. But you can also kind of hack this style by setting up your camera, turning off to the side a little bit so that it looks like you're answering somebody else, and just sort of answer a question as if it was asked to you in an interview. And the way you clip it up just looks like, oh, this person's being interviewed about buying a house or, about how they can help sellers. And that can be a really cool style of content that tends to perform quite well. We've got our green screens, which are fun. You can display a property or an article or even your lead magnet and just put your little face over it, talk about it while that's green screened on the back. Of course, we've got our standard static posts. We've got infographics. We've got carousel posts, which are those 10 slides you can swipe through. Carousels have made quite a comeback recently and tend to be doing extremely well for people posting those. We've got note screenshots. So again, writing up some tips or points in your notes app, screenshotting it and posting that as a post. And then we've got that thread or tweet. So if you go onto Twitter or to Threads and you're going to post something there, you can again screenshot it and post that to Instagram as a reel or as a photo. So again, these are just some of the types of content that are a bit more unique, some easier than others, but it gives you an idea of all the different styles of content that you can experiment with to have fun and to show up more to different parts of your audience. And when you understand that there's multiple types of content, it's also going to create way more opportunity to never run out of content ideas. This is my favorite strategy to use for social media. So let's just say that you want to make a post that's like 3 must-know tips for a first-time buyer. Well, now you can use this 3x3 strategy, and you're going to come up with 3 variations of that hook and 3 variations of the content style. And all of a sudden you can create 9 different pieces out of one concept. So I'll show you like an example here. I'll take that same hook. It was 3 must-know tips for home buyers. We're going to come up with a second variation, which is maybe do not buy your first home without doing these 3 things first. And then our third hook would be maybe the #1 mistake first-time home buyers make and how to avoid it. So I just took that same content and just kind of reworded it 3 times. And then I could pair that with 3 different content types. So maybe 1, I'm talking to the camera directly. Maybe 1 is a carousel post that people can swipe through. And maybe 1 is that faceless looping reel with the text on screen. And now I can pair those up to create 9 different types of content that'll all appear different. It's sharing the same kind of value, but now I've just maximized the amount of posts that I could create off of 1 idea. And so you may not go and use all 9 of those back to back, but you could maybe use, 4 of them or 6 of them or all 9 if you choose to, and mix that into your content. And now you have become extremely efficient with sharing the piece of content you're trying to get across. It's going to also show you what types of content your audience likes best, and you've just made your whole content creation process a lot more simple. So that is one of my favorite strategies to maximize what we can do with our social media. I think it's super, super fun. So I just want to give you guys one more chance here. If you want to drop in the chat, I did put together a quick Google Doc that has all of these captions and post ideas for you guys. This is actually set up, and I have different variations of it, but it's really set up so that you can actually go day by day. You can view some of the examples on there, and you can just kind of use that as your own blueprint for that 30-day social media blitz. So you can go through here, you can introduce yourself. We've got all of the prompts day by day that are going to make it super easy for you to just go in and create your post or create your content without having to come up with something new every single time. So I know Tristan just dropped that into the chat here, so you guys can take a look at it, and it'll make your life a lot easier with some new ideas. So that's my 30-day social media blitz to make it a lot easier to show up and to just absolutely crush it with your social media game. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, I have a little bit more time. We could go through some questions or whatever you want to do.
Yeah, let's go through some questions. But first, you're mostly on IG, or where do you find yourself secondary? Anywhere else?
I also spend a lot of time on Facebook. I am a big Facebook fan, and I find that, you know, people on there are a bit more willing to like connect and message and chat and stuff. So I spend a lot of time on Instagram and Facebook. I also love LinkedIn, depending on the types of people you're trying to connect with. But Instagram will always be my tried and true.
All right, and then people follow you on Instagram. There, I put up Tessa Bella's Instagram. So if you have questions, you can also DM her. She's really good at getting back to you. Michael Brown, can you repost the Google Doc? Yeah, we can repost it. Let me grab it and put it on here. And Mark has a question. What is trending audio?
Yeah, that is a great question. So I will say that trending audio, I actually can show you really quickly. It's super easy to find, but this is actually an indicator that Instagram has set up to make our lives a little easier when trying to find something that's going to work well for showing up. So let me just pop this up on my screen real quick for you. When you're on Instagram, if you go into your reels, so you're viewing reels, there's the reel tab when you're on there, or maybe you just click on someone's, you'll notice that there are differences in that bottom strip that says the audio. And if you see this little up arrow right here, that's typically going to indicate that this is a trending audio. So you could go and click right on that where it says audio, or where it says, this says Awaken Your Resilience Original Audio. You would just literally click on that, and it'll open up that audio and you can now use it. Additionally, once you open that up, you'll see in the top right corner, it'll also say trending, and you can click on those and see a full list of the audios that are trending right now. So it's just a powerful tool that you can use to kind of double down on getting some additional visibility. And if you really want to be strategic with it, I try to pay attention to the number of reels that are using that audio. And I'll try to use one that has, like, this would be a perfect one. Granted, I screenshotted this a little while ago, so this one probably has a lot more now. But I've opened up that audio and it says 5,000 reels are using this. That to me is a good indicator that this would be a perfect time to use that audio if I want to maybe ride the wave of some visibility there. So it is a little bit more complex, but to put it simply, just look for that little up arrow, and that's going to tell you that something's trending, and you can kind of jump on that trend and use it for yourself.
I love that. Good job,
Yeah.
Mark. There you go, Mark. That was a good answer, Tessa. So what are you focused on when you're creating content right now? If we go back to that slide that had the little stars, were the stars indicating the things you're focused on, or maybe
Those
you
are
can go through?
really indicating definitely the ones that I find to work best and that are like a good combination. So just for everyone to know exactly what we're talking about here, that is this slide. I added a little star, by the ones that I like to create the most and that I find to be working best. So those are the looping ones that are going to play multiple times while someone's reading it. It's the interview style. It's a green screen, which the green screen's fun and it's so easy. You could literally jump onto, like, you know, Keeping Current Matters, or anywhere that you see blogs, anything local. It could be talking about local events. Just put that as the green screen behind you and record, and your talking head just says like, hey, I just found this awesome article. It talks about, 5 fun things to do in Scottsdale this summer. If you want to take a look at the full article, comment down below and I'll shoot you the link, something like that. And it's a super easy post. I didn't even have to write the article, and I'm leveraging that. So that can be a cool way to do it. Carousel posts, like I said, are performing really well right now. That's those slides that we can just swipe through. And then
Carousel
a note
video posts or carousel picture posts? What's working well?
So it kind of depends. I've been using carousels where I'll just put like a photo and I'll add text on top of it inside of Instagram. So I would go to like my Instagram story, have a photo that I'm throwing some text on, and I'm just using it almost as if it was like multiple slides on my story, but now it's a carousel post that people can just swipe through. So yeah, static images, just swiping right through them can be really, really easy.
All right, do me a favor, everyone, grab this. So leave this up, Tessa.
Yep.
Everyone, snapshot this, please. She did such a great job putting that together. And then you're going to need probably some clarity on how to use this. So follow Tessa, Bella, and ask her, hey, what do you mean by this? Or how do you do guru style? Whatever you want to ask her, just make sure that you crop that and save it, because this is kind of giving you a hack onto what to use and how to show up. This was great.
Awesome. Yeah. And I hope that's helpful for you guys. And definitely, like Tristan said, do come shoot me a message. I am more than happy to give you guys ideas. And in that document I shared, there's some direct links to other people's stuff that you can see those in action. But also feel free to shoot me a message, and I'm happy to share.
Jay, can you quickly show the first 3 tips you started with today?
Yes. Let's pop back over to that. I did. Step 1 was just that. I think this is what you were referring to, right? The just being better and consistent. So choosing a specific time and posting that same time every time that you do post, making sure that you're kind of making small adjustments to your content, that it's getting better and better each time. Step 2 is understanding Instagram. So at the end of the day, they're a business. They have a reason behind why they push certain things out. So we want to make sure that we're paying attention to that. And you can kind of get an edge if you start to think about why they might be doing that. So the example I gave was, when they launched Threads, which is their version of Twitter, they started to really push the accounts of people who are using that feature. So the Threads feature. And that brings us right into step 3, which is using all of the different features. So whether that's something like Threads, or it's jumping onto your Instagram story and using some of those little stickers and the stuff that they add in there for us. I know that some of them are silly and may seem like, how could this help me? But once again, they tend to prioritize people who are really using those ones that already exist. So playing into the game a bit of using those features and just trying to figure out why they're doing what they're doing can really help you in alignment with your consistent and better posts over time.
I like it. I think we got all of them. Tessa, thank you so much. This is great. So if we're going to do another one, what would be a great topic for you?
One thing that I get a ton of questions on that I know people would love is how to set up like the ManyChat tool. So how you can automate people,
that is totally 100% what everybody asks. You're so right.
I get that question all the time. So that would be a perfect one. It'll definitely be a little more technical, but that one will help you out a lot. And it's really cool to see.
30 minutes or an hour on that one?
30 minutes should be fine. It's pretty straightforward. You just need to see it in action,
Okay, let's do that one. We'll set that one up again. Please follow Tessa Bella, ask her any questions. Thank you for being on again.
Yes, thank you so much. This is awesome. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.
Bye, everyone.